It's wonderful having you with us, dear friends. Appreciate your presence and your commitment and your solidarity. It's definitely a broken world that we're living in, and that's why there's always need for peace activists, people who are trying to fix this broken world that we have broken ourselves. I think humanity, we continue to mess up things. Addameer is with us. Gina, are you here?
Hi everyone, yes, I'm here.
Ahlan, 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 Gina. Are you going to be sharing from a PowerPoint or no?
No, I don't have a PowerPoint prepared. I was just gonna speak, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Ahlan wa sahlan. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, dear friends, this meeting is being recorded. So, is for one reason or another you don't want to be recorded, please turn off your or to appear online at a certain time, please turn off your cameras. And we're going to be asking people not to unmute themselves during the talk. We're going to offer the opportunity of people asking questions. You can ask questions in the chat, but and if there is time and there is space, we will open it up for live questions. Continues to be a very sad period in Palestinian history. Since October 7th, the people in Gaza have been suffering, and our people in general, but especially our friends and families and people in Gaza have been going through so many war crimes, genocide. I don't know what words to describe it, that we're living in the 21st century and there is engineered famine that is taking place against our people, and with a very clear double standards being undertaken by the international community. The international community, as you're all aware, reacts, and that was part of the discussion, reacts in different ways depending on who's being affected and who's committing the crimes. Sadly, not new to us Palestinians, but especially in the past few years, since the Trump era, I would say that it's becoming clearer and clearer. But I think we are a community who would like to do something different. We appreciate everybody who's meeting, everybody who's doing the actions that we're sending it. I know it's really challenging with this change of time. We still insist to be on Palestinian time internationally, which is confusing others around the world. So thank you for being patient with us. But today we have a special guest with us. We have a special organization that does very important work here in Palestine, defending, I would say, the prophets of Palestine, the people who end up in jail. It's usually, in most places, the jail is done for people who break the law or who commit crimes. In Palestine, when somebody goes to jail, it is usually the people who are willing to make a stand for human rights and to defend the freedom of the people, especially the people on the margins. Many people have been, almost every Palestinian, I would say, that's not statistics, that's my opinion, has been to jail, and some multiple times, sadly. And it could be as something as minimum as taking part in a silent demonstration, writing something on Facebook, or just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. But we have an organization that is also under attack itself to what is taking place. One of the 6 organizations or 7 organizations that have been under continuous attacks for a number of years, just for doing the work that they're doing and for being who they are. It's a pleasure having you with us, Gina. And Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you as well, Sabine, for having me and inviting me. I would say that, a really good job was given right now in explaining the situation and kind of a general overview of what's been going on in Palestine. So I'm here representing Addameer, and Addameer is a prisoner support and human rights organization that works towards advocating and supporting the rights of Palestinian prisoners that are unjustly and illegally detained inside Israeli prisons. So what I do, my job specifically is I work as the international advocacy officer. So I work on more of an international level in just advocating for the rights of prisoners and making sure that their voices are heard at a more wide range and worldwide. As it was mentioned, Addameer was one of the 6 organizations that was deemed and designated as a terrorist organization. However, this has not really affected the work that we do for our prisoners because, to be honest and to be quite frank, no evidence was given against any of the 6 organizations that were designated as terrorists because there is just, no evidence against us. And all we do is we work towards advocating for prisoners' rights and making sure that we can find a way to put an end to the injustice and the occupation that has been occurring way back for, since 1948. So I guess today I'll be speaking and trying to give more of a context to the situation that has been occurring within the occupation's prisons after October 7th. So it's of course, important to note that, yes, so it's important to note that a lot of the injustices and a lot of the violations and the violations to human rights and violations to international law has been occurring way before October 7th. So the situation that the prisoners are in is nothing new, and it's only intensified greatly tenfold, one would say, after October 7th. So to kind of explain the process as well, so Palestinian prisoners are taken and tried in military courts. They are not tried in an ordinary court or ordinary court of law as we would see in other countries, perhaps around the world. They are specifically taken and unjustly trialed with a lot of loopholes around international law, and a lot of the charges that are given against the prisoners violate many laws. Such as, for example, administrative detention, and administrative detention is one of the most common charges that is given to Palestinian prisoners. And what administrative detention is that it allows the judge of the military court to charge any Palestinian, no matter age or gender, with a set of 3 to 6 months. So a Palestinian could be charged from up to 6 months under no evidence, under evidence. If there is evidence, it would be evidence that is kept in a secret file that the detainee or the lawyer themselves have absolutely no access to. So just to sort of repeat this, the evidence that is usually held against the Palestinian is kept secret in a file that the Palestinian lawyer and the Palestinian detainee themselves do not have any access to. So they have no idea what they're being charged with, what the crime is exactly that is being held against them. And there's no way to fight this charge once it is given and ordered against a prisoner, because the lawyer is just quite frankly unable to dispute any of the evidence, since they have no access to what exactly the crime that is being suspected to have been committed. So the judge can renew an administrative order indefinitely. So once the detention period that was given was carried out until its end date, the judicial review will take place. And then in this judicial review, the judge can review the file, this same secret file, and give another sentencing of administrative detention, another, for example, 3 to 6 months, and then this is repeated indefinitely for as long as the judge deems fit. So this just keeps the prisoners detained for a very long period of time without the ability to even fight against this charge. So yeah, that sort of explains what administrative detention is, and the military system, and the basically just systemic violations that have been occurring since the existence and since the creations of these prisons and these detention centers. So a lot of these detention centers that the prisoners are being taken to are illegal detention centers that are set up as well in illegal. So they are sort of in the occupied territories, and the Palestinian prisoners are taken to these detention centers, and this is against international law because the Palestinians should be charged and taken to a detention center that is within the territory of their country, of their own country. To sort of get into the situation of what the prisoners have been experiencing after October 7th. So after October 7th, there has been complete isolation of the prisoners from the outside world. So for the first 2 months after October 7th, prisoners were not allowed to meet with any of their lawyers. Up until today, they have not been able to get any visitations by their family members. They have been now allowed access to lawyers. However, it is very difficult for a lawyer to obtain a session, a meeting or a session with their client, and it basically takes a very long time. And most of the time, the detainees are transferred from a detention center to detention center without the lawyer even being informed. So a lawyer will show up to the detention center that he believes their client is currently being held in, only to be informed that they were transferred to another center without being informed, and then they themselves have to find out where they were transferred to because they are not usually given the information of where the prisoner is now currently being held. So we currently have over 9,500 political Palestinian prisoners being held in the occupations prisons, and over 3,500 of those are charged with administrative detention. And many of those are children and women as well. So to sort of give specific numbers, we have 200 children that are currently detained inside the occupations prisons, and 40 of those are charged with administrative detention. And we have 80 female prisoners that are currently being held in Israeli prisons as well. And when it comes to the numbers of the detainees that are coming from Gaza, there is no way to sort of confirm this number and make sure that it is an accurate number, because all the organizations here and us as well, we are forced to depend on this information coming from the occupation themselves, because we are not allowed to visit any of the military camps that the Gazan detainees are currently being detained in. And we have no idea of their whereabouts, how many are currently being detained, and what their names are, or any of their family members as well have no information. So they are, under international law, considered enforceably disappeared, because there's absolutely no information on them whatsoever. It is estimated to be around over 800 Gazan detainees that are currently imprisoned in these 2 military camps that they are being taken to. The situation of the Gazan prisoners and detainees, as explained by Israeli newspapers, is very horrible and disastrous conditions. They are kept in outside cages. And they are not even kept inside a room inside a building. They are kept actually outside in a cage and outside in the harsh winter air and in the rain as well. They are not given any change of clothing. Everything on them once they were detained was completely confiscated. They are blindfolded and handcuffed throughout the whole entirety of their detention as well. They are, from testimonies that we've gotten from other prisoners and from testimonies as well as that were given by some of the released prisoners, they were aggressively and harshly beat and brutally beat. So, sorry, just one moment, guys. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, so the situation is just horrible, and we have no way at all, like I said, to communicate with any of these detainees. A lot of the information that we do get, we depend, yes, these numbers are available on the website. So, as well as a lot of other information on the detainees is available as well. So yeah, we really have to depend on the occupation for accurate information and for the conditions of the prisoners. As well as information that we've obtained from Israeli newspapers is the fact that there has been 27 deaths that have occurred amongst the Gazan detainees. And for the detainees coming from the West Bank, there are currently 16 detainees that we know of that have been killed as well. So those are the detainees coming from the West Bank. Also, the torture that has been going on inside the prisons after October 7th has escalated at a very alarming rate as well. A lot of the prisoners are, almost all the prisoners are experiencing ambushes inside their cells. So special unit forces from the Israeli occupation will enter and aggressively and brutally beat the prisoners. And it's at very random hours of the day and very random hours of the night. Dogs are also unleashed onto the prisoners as well. So not only are aggressive and heavy duty tools and tools of torture used against the prisoners, but as well the use of animals. As the prisoners are also being starved, and they're not being provided with any adequate food. They are given very small amounts of food. Also, as well, the glass from the windows in the cells have been removed, and this is done deliberately in order again to allow the harsh winter elements to enter inside the room. Children are being beat. Children's bones have been crushed and smashed. These are testimonies from released prisoners that were released during the prisoner exchange back in November, and as well as the fact that these prisoners that were released in November were, as well, many of them were rearrested this month and last month. So the occupation as well has violated the terms of the prisoner exchange that had occurred back in November, and they have rearrested many of these prisoners. So yeah, that sort of, gives an overview of the gruesome and the very violent torture that the prisoners have been experiencing since October 7th. And of course, this has been occurring way before, this date as well, but it is sort of intensified sort of as a way of revenge and collective punishment against the Palestinians. Yes, the situation is as bad for both women and children. The women, and not just the women, but both genders, are threatened with sexual assault and sexual harassment as well. Women and men and children as well are strip searched upon entering the prisons, and as well as they are being transferred from cell to cell or from prison to prison, they are strip searched. So that has been the situation that's been going on.
I think Salim managed to log in. Salim, are you there?
I did, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I don't know if we can see you.
Can you see me? It's fine if you don't need to see me.
Yeah, we see
thank
you
you.
sitting relaxed on the couch, Salim.
Well, it seems like we're having technical issues. I think we're trying to log in with, and it seems like if the ISP, like anything from Palestine, we're not being able to connect to Zoom, so it's been weird. Sorry for the apologies of being late. Jenna, thank you so much for the information. If anyone has any questions, please, it's the time for some questions.
There are some questions in the chat. So you've addressed it a little bit, but is the situation as bad for women and children for male detainees, or it is usually an easier case?
No, it would not be safe to say that the situation is any easier for the men and for the women and the children as well. From the many testimonies that we've collected, the same is occurring to all ages and all genders as well.
We have a question from Randy Omar. Or Randy has his hand raised up if they would like to ask. Randy?
Hi,
Do you have
I wasn't able to unmute. Jenna, we've been following the situation for one of the recent arrestees, Layan Nasser, who I believe is currently being held in Damon prison under administrative detention that she was just sentenced to this past week. But we know very little about the others who were arrested around the same time as her. I believe there were some 8 young people who were picked up in Bir Zayt and in Ramallah area. Do you know anything about their fates?
I wouldn't know without the names. I know Layan Nasser, yes, and she was given as well administrative detention, and there's also Layan Kayed that was arrested on the same day as
Right.
well, and she was given 4 months administrative detention. Like I said, administrative detention has been the most common charge that's been given to the prisoners. So, we say about 80% of the prisoners that are, the Palestinians that are arrested are charged with administrative detention. So it is very possible and likely that they were as well charged, perhaps, but I wouldn't know for sure without the names.
Okay. And as you said, once they are given the administrative detention sentence, there's nothing that can be done to overturn that?
Correct. It is a very difficult charge to dispute and to fight in court because, like I said, a lot of the evidence is kept secret and the lawyer has no access to it whatsoever. So, they can try to appeal, but most likely the outcome will not be anything different, and they will still be forced to carry out the entirety of the detention.
Sure. And is there any hope that public pressure from the outside, from other nations, from us as individuals, can have any kind of an impact? Can we, is it helpful to write to the Israeli ambassadors in our country, in our various countries, or to try to invoke religious leaders to act out on their behalf?
Of course, public pressure is always welcome, and action. There's as well an urgent call to action that I have actually sent to Salim to be passed around, and there's basically pre-written letters that can be signed and sent to Israeli judges and lawyers as well to hold them complicit and accountable for the crimes and the violations that has been going on.
And is there a particular individual that you would have people write to?
The letters, the document that I did send do contain 2 emails, yes,
Thank you.
of course.
We have another question from John. John?
Yes, Janine, thank you very much for what you do. And have you, or the Adim, taken any actions to international organizations like the UN or International Court of Justice regarding the system as well as individual cases? Are they being taken beyond Israel?
So we do make a lot of submissions, and we do sometimes submit individual complaints to the working group of on administrative detention. However, no big impact or outcome has come from it yet. So, but we do, of course, we do work on that as well, and making submissions and trying to get the UN more involved. But with the occupation, you know, they really do go through many loopholes, and they find ways to not abide by international law, which is very obvious.
We have a question in the chat, and the question is: the released people that were detained again, is there legal recourse that makes their release more likely?
No, if they were charged with, because a lot of the ones that were rearrested, from those that were released were charged with another, with administrative detention again. So it is just the same process being repeated. So there's not really any, like different or special procedure to be done. But if some of them were detained, but then released, so they were only taken for interrogation and then released. However, many of them were given were charged with administrative detention once more.
And there was one question I saw in the chat as well. You mentioned that the detainee would be blindfolded and shackled. Did you say, like, basically, did you say that the detainee blindfolded and shackled during the entire time of imprisoned?
So yeah, this is what we've been seeing for the Gazan detainees specifically, those that were taken from Gaza. It has been documented by, like I said, Israeli newspapers that they were blindfolded and zip tied for the entirety of their detention, as well as testimonies of released prisoners that were released and did conduct interviews in the Gaza Strip. They also said the same thing as well. For the prisoners here in the West Bank, it's not always the case. They are not always blindfolded for the whole entire time or handcuffed. They could be for a small amount of time, but usually it is not the same as with the detainees from Gaza.
And then there's another question from Mike. There are some 6,000 political prisoners, not admin detainees. Are their charges known to lawyers?
So yes, the ones that are not charged with administrative detention, yes, the charges are usually given to the lawyers. But once the charge is given, if they were sentenced to a certain amount of time, it is still the same process. It is very difficult to appeal and dispute.
Another question is: are they given access to bathroom facilities?
So yes, they are given access to bathroom facilities. However, what we've been seeing, especially after October 7th, is that they've been deliberately, the Israeli prison services have been deliberately ignoring requests. So if they are being held in the interrogation room or just the holding a cell for a while, if the detainee requests to use the bathroom, they're forced to kind of wait hours on hours, sometimes 7 hours on end, until they're even taken to a bathroom. And then usually the bathroom is completely contaminated and really dirty. But I'm not really sure about the situation once they are put into a cell with the other prisoners, what the situation. But usually, yes, there is access to bathroom facilities.
One question I saw in the chat is, are the prisoners from Gaza and the prisoners from the West Bank, are they held together?
So no, the prisoners from Gaza are mostly taken to two military camps named Detention and Anatot. And due to the overcrowding that has been happening, because as well after October 7th, the mass increase in arrest campaigns has resulted in overcrowding of the detention centers here as well, because there really is no space. So cells that are meant to hold for around 4 prisoners are now currently holding 10 prisoners. So during the beginning, they were kind of mixed, however, not in the same cell, but like just different sections, but the same center. So it depends on center to center. So they could be some detainees from Gaza in the same detention center or detention camp. However, they're not in the same section of the other Palestinian prisoners from the West Bank.
There is a question from Gavin. Is there a way to focus on certain detainees? Are those that they know very well? We can push from this side and have these petitions worked previously.
So really, like, especially now during the whole like chaos and the hectic situation, we have not really been making any campaigns for any specific prisoner. So we've been kind of grouping, for example, the human rights defenders or like the activists, the journalists, like sort of, and campaigning for them like as a whole, as in general, but we have not made like any specific individual campaigns because, you know, everyone is just, you know, the situation is just very hectic, and it wouldn't be very beneficial to focus specifically on one prisoner.
We also have a question from Todd. Let me just unmute. Todd?
Yes, thank you. I figured it was easier just to talk than to type things in. Can you speak to, and this would also, of course, depend on where you're at, but can you speak to how you all are doing, Palestinians? I mean, it looks like from what I see on the internet that you're good at getting together and kind of a brotherly, sisterly communion, you know, or you know, you help each other and comfort each other. But how I mean, it's unimaginable what it must be like coming out of that detention, what those people have to go through, and I'm just wondering how you're doing as a society, because I mean, what we're starting to think about also is, you know, there's going to be accountability once this is done, for lack of a better word at the moment, done. But how are you all holding up? It's just, you know, God be with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Todd. I would, you know, to sort of answer that, I think, you know, people here are really good in creating communities with each other. And, you know, a lot of these families of the prisoners, of course, they can relate to what's going on. You know, everyone, I would say almost, you know, it's a very high number of every household here in Palestine that has at least one family member that's detained or has been detained. So, you know, it kind of helps them, I guess, in sort of creating communities together and trying to help each other out. Even the prisoners themselves, what we've been seeing while we were taking testimonies is, you know, the prisoners are they try their best to create a sort of community with each other and protect one another. And this is also something that has been kind of an issue that the Israeli prison services have been, you know, trying to like prohibit, because they are really trying their best to isolate the prisoners from each other and not to let them speak to one another. And they do punish them even if they try to speak to each other, just hold a normal conversation. They do attack them and beat them as well. So you know, they notice that, you know, possibly the sense of community is what helps people stay positive. So this isn't something that they really want going on within the prisons.
I personally was going to ask the same question which Randy just posted. Is the Red Crescent still being denied oversight access to the prisoners?
Yeah, so the Red Cross still has not been able to visit the prisoners. As I said, family members as well have not been able to visit their detained family members. It is only the lawyer, and like I said, it is very difficult as well for lawyers to obtain visits for the prisoners. But yes, the Red Cross has not. There's a lot of information as well. I wasn't really able to like speak on, but a lot of the information is available on our website, as well as the report that was published in January. And it also talks about the medical negligence that has been occurring within the prisons, and you know, just the horrific violations and injustices, and just complete chaos that has been going on.
And there's a question from Barry. Is there any other nation that has practices in these areas that are comparable to those Jenna has described?
Is there any nation that holds the same kind of practices as Israeli occupation as the prisons?
Barry, yeah, the question is not clear. I don't know if Barry could actually hear us and send another question.
Yeah, sorry, I don't see the question in the chat as well, so.
I personally, just maybe until Brian shares it, I personally just saw a video today about the 14-year-old boy. I don't know, Jenna, if you saw it, from Gaza, who was just released from prison. He was imprisoned for like, I think 2 weeks, and he was shot in prison by the soldiers, and how he's traumatized by it. And it was really hard to watch.
Yes, this is really more common than you think, and it plays into the medical negligence that's been going on in the prisons, because a lot of these prisoners are injured upon their arrest. So during the arresting process itself, and prisoners are also shot while they are being arrested, and then they're not being treated. So they're shot and injured and beat, and they're in need of like very urgent care and medical attention. However, the detention, the arresting process is carried out till the very end. So even though, no matter if they were shot or injured upon arrest, they're still being taken into interrogation, and they're still being charged and thrown in a cell as well. And their injuries are not even being attended to by any sort of medical staff whatsoever. They're completely ignored, and they're forced to suffer the entire time until perhaps maybe they're being seen by medical staff. But even then, if they are seen by medical staff, we've also obtained some testimonies from people that claim that once they were seen by a doctor, if the doctor asked them what happened, and if they said that, oh, we were beat, or this happened to me as well, the soldiers will re-enter the clinic, the room, and they'll beat the prisoner again. So it is very horrific, you know, what's been going on.
True. Well, if anyone, for some of you who already asked about the call to actions, we already posted the call to action that Jenna shared with us on the chat. If you please, you could find it if you scroll, and you could find it. And you know, as a joint partnership in this project with Today, we want to join Addameer and Jenna and their call to action, because this, I'm sure they've been doing it a lot, and it helps in somehow to put more pressure if anyone is looking for a way to, you know, support, help, or get engaged in this matter. Jenna, thank you so much. You know, as you said, this topic is very big, and it could go for on and on, especially after October 7th and the things that we've been hearing. Gaza itself is a different story, and the treatment of the prisoners there and here as well. You know, myself as just a regular Palestinian, you know, it has been, we have been very aware that it even comes to the point that we are in the danger of being imprisoned just by sharing on social media our struggle. We could be detained by that, and so it's been not easy to express that situation, especially I think maybe in Jerusalem the most. But Jenna, thank you so much. And I think for now we're gonna be going to our action plans. Sorry, the call of actions. Ryan, do we have any of the call of actions alongside with the one that Jenna shared?
I'll go ahead and jump in and answer that
Oh,
question.
sure.
And thanks again, Jenna, for your presentation. I do just have one final question for Jenna regarding the action that we're all gonna participate in now. We're gonna go through and read this document with the letter that you've provided us. Given that most of our audience here are internationals, mainly in the US and the UK, other European countries, what is the best way to contextualize this letter as we're copying and pasting it? I understand that it's being directed to Israeli judges. So is this beneficial action, particularly for this international audience?
Yeah, this is something that we've been sharing with all our audiences as well, and every because this month is tomorrow is Prisoners Day, so this month kind of revolves around the whole day for us. So what we've been doing since the beginning of the month is we've been sharing this call for action with every lecture or every webinar that we've been holding, and we've been asking just like on a whole international level for people to just, if they would like, of course, to participate and send it in, because it kind of course puts more of a pressure on the Israeli occupation here, because it's not coming just from people in Palestine but more on an international scale. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I'll be inviting everyone to, at this time, turn to your email inboxes. And again, I'm going to share my screen with this letter. And as Jenna said, encouraging all of us to send this email, even stating what country you're from, and to just have the added pressure on that. So I'm going to go ahead and read it, but while I'm reading it, please move to your email inbox and let's together complete this action that's been provided to us by Addameer. So as Jenna shared, that tomorrow is Palestinian Prisoners Day. Our call to action reads, during the month of Palestinian Prisoners Day, the 17th of April, Addameer issues an urgent call for action to the free people of the world. The crimes of the Israeli occupation against Palestinian prisoners have intensified since last October 7th. The occupation authorities have launched a wide-ranging campaign of arrests targeting all sectors of the Palestinian people. More than 8,000 male and female detainees have been arrested since October 7th. 80% of them are held under arbitrary administrative detention without charge or trial. 16 Palestinian prisoners have been killed under torture and ill treatment in the occupation's prisons. Thousands of Palestinians from Gaza are subjected to enforced disappearance. Dozens of detainees from Gaza have been killed during detention in military camps. In the face of all these crimes and many others, Addameer calls those in solidarity with Palestinian political prisoners to address both the Israeli Military Central Command, who issues and signs thousands of orders for arbitrary administrative detention, and the head of Israeli prison service responsible for all crimes committed against prisoners inside the prisons, and demand an immediate cessation of the crimes on Palestinian prisoners, using the following two texts for different emails. So the two different texts read, the detention of Palestinians under administrative detention orders without informing the detainee of the nature and cause of the charge, denying them their right to a fair trial, is a war crime according to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Your issuance and signing of these orders expose you to legal accountability as a war criminal. There are currently over 3,600 Palestinians detained administratively in prisons without any charges. I demand an immediate cessation of the crime of issuing administrative detention orders to detain Palestinians without charge or trial. You should be well aware that you will be subject to legal accountability for perpetrating this crime. And then underneath this message is the email that you can copy and paste as you're sending this message. And then I would encourage everyone to be signing the email with your name, the country that you're from, that you're representing as you send this email. And then the second one, which is writing to the head of the Israeli prison service, where the second email is then listed below there, reads, "The crime of subjecting Palestinian prisoners to torture, ill treatment, and abuse by the Israeli prison service forces is a war crime and a crime against humanity, according to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. You bear full legal responsibility for committing these crimes. Within the prison, 16 Palestinian prisoners have been killed in the past 6 months as a result of severe beatings, torture, ill treatment, and medical neglect, and Palestinian prisoners continue to be subjected to the policies of starvation, thirst, and deprivation of basic rights. I demand an immediate cessation of the crimes of torture and ill treatment against Palestinian prisoners. You should be well aware that you will be subject to legal accountability for perpetrating this crime." So I hope this is helpful for us to go through and read as we're sending these emails provided to us by Addameer. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Yes, Hazel, I would say it's okay to resend. These sorts of emails can be sent more than once. Maybe what are some people putting in the subject line? What have you used? You can drop that in the chat. Yeah, letter of concern, Palestinian prisoners, prisoners treatment, prisoners held. I would also say, even noting that April 17th is Palestinian Prisoners Day, could be something in the subject line. Yeah, good point from Ton with the subject lines to make it more creative and not the topic of the email to get them read. Yeah, good. Okay, just want to quickly move on to our other 2 actions, which were in the newsletter this week, which are, if you were with us last week, to watch and share the video that our partner Bisan Center has created about health rights violations in the Gaza Strip since the 7th of October. We watched it together as a group last week. And if you were not with us, I would encourage you to watch the video and share it with people. This is a really powerful, I think, short documentary that can be an educational resource. So that is linked in the chat. Thank you, Ryan. And then our second action is also a repeat from last week, but we want to continue for a second week, which is the petition that Omar began, protesting extremist Christian Zionist demonstration done by the Temple Institute. Last week, Mary Claire read out for us the entire petition, which is addressing the Temple Institute's plans to sacrifice a red heifer in an act of wanting to summon the Third Temple. And this is a petition that individuals and churches can sign to speak out against this demonstration of extremism. So we just want to share that for a second week just to catch anyone who wasn't able to be with us last week. And as always, these are linked in the chat, in the newsletter, and on our Kumi Now website. So you have many places to find these if you don't get to it now. On behalf of Sabil and Kumi and Omar, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to be with us today. This week's video will be online and recorded. And thank you for coming to learn, completing the actions, and of course, your commitment to justice for all Palestinians and all in this land. So with that, I just want to thank Salim for helping us facilitate. And we really need to address the fact that Zoom is doing something weird in Palestine right now. So hopefully we can, maybe that will be an upcoming topic, the need for VPNs in Palestine. But yeah, thanks everyone for being with us. That's all for this week.